Hey guys, what's up? I know it's been a bit of a while, but I have come back for some. Well, it's kind of the end of the year. It's December. So basically, we haven't gotten our codex. We are potentially going to be seeing, and rumor has it we'll be seeing it either in the late first quarter of next year or the early second quarter of next year. But so far, things have gotten a little interesting. Chapter Approved has come out, and we have gotten some interesting stuff. But primarily, let me just get this out of the way. Uh, this is basically a book review video. So, because recently, there was the Black Library Weekender. Now I asked a friend to, I asked him, paid a friend to pick up a copy of the upcoming Space Marine Conquests, Ashes of Prospero. I got it last Saturday. I read through it, and I finished it up. I finished it up on Monday. So, and as if you don't know, today's Tuesday. So, uh, this is a bit of a book review and telling you, and I'm going to tell you, this is going to be filled with spoilers. So, I'm going to have so basically you're going to be hearing some stuff that's going to, unless you're waiting on the book, I recommend that you don't continue on and try and spoil it, because it's like, this is actually an interesting book. Even if you got to, actually no, I basically spoiled myself. It's a good spoil. Like, I spoiled myself. I went on to Bolter and Chainsword and got some information about some big spoilers. But reading the book was very good, and a lot of this stuff is very interesting. But so far, right now, let me tell you about what we've got as an army. With Chapter Approved coming out, we have two new stratagems. We have two new stratagems: a relic and a warlord trait. Now, the two stratagems, they are Cunning of the Wolf, which basically means you can select an infantry unit at the beginning of during deployment. Use a single command point per deployment, and that infantry unit can outflank. You can also and there's also, what is it called, True Grit, a homage to the old I think 3rd edition Space Wolves Codex. And what it does is that in combat, during the shooting phase, if a unit is locked in combat during the shooting phase, their bolters, their bolt guns, their bolt carbines, and their what is it called, bolt rifles, count as being pistol 2. Now this doesn't affect all bolt weapons, just the bolt guns, just the bolt carbines, and the bolt rifles. So it's like, don't even think about storm bolters. So this is a very interesting thing here. The warlord trait is called Saga of the Warriorborn, which means that sagas are still going to be warlord traits. I know, it's going to be a little annoying. And then there is the relic, which was picked out from the Champions of Fenris supplement of the last codex, the Kraken Bone Sword. Now, the Kraken Bone Sword is an interesting little thing. It's a Strength +1, AP -4. I think it's 1 damage, or 1 or maybe 2. I think it's 1 damage, maybe 2 damage. I can't remember. I'm gonna have to check it. I'm gonna have to check it later. But it's kind of interesting. With the rule, like, I like with the Cunning of the Wolf ability. It's one command point, and since it takes place during the deployment phase, during deployment, you can use it as many times as you want. So you can have. I was just thinking about this whole thing. Okay, let's take this for scenario. Let's do a couple of scenarios. Uh, you could have a unit of Wolfen outflank while a unit of Sky Claws deep strikes. It does a jump pack, basically does a jump pack assault. And what happened? And so basically, on the turn, you can have your Sky Claws come down and your Wolfen outflank, and then you can charge. And then because of the and we know with outflanking and deep striking, you can't come in within 9 inches of your opponent. You can't come within 9 inches of your opponent. So you're going. So basically, here's what's going to happen. The Wolfen will, since the Wolfen, they can reroll their charge phase. They can reroll their charge result. And the Sky Claws, because they are within 12 inches of the Wolfen, they can reroll theirs to charge as well. That way, you've got yourself. That way, you have a better guarantee of getting into combat. Or you could take a unit of Long Fangs with a Wolfguard Terminator, with a pack leader, and you can with a Cyclone missile launcher, or a assault cannon. That way, you can kind of create a bit of a outflanking line unit right there. It's pretty good. I like it. But okay, so that's kind of a lot of the updated stuff out of the way. Now let's get on to the book review. Now remember, this is going to be filled with spoilers, so don't watch. I'm even going to give you a few seconds here to turn off the video. Okay. So far the book is very good. It has the story itself is 346 pages, with a few pages, with a couple extra pages of a sample read of an upcoming book called Lucas the Trickster, which is going to be coming out in February. And let's just say, all right. So basically, the setting here. This takes place after the Indomitus Crusade. So what's happening is that Logan Grimnar so basically the entire Space Wolf chapter is spread thin. Even with the addition of Primaris Marines, the Space Wolf numbers are exceedingly thin. Fewer forces are coming back, and because of what happened in Wrath of Magnus, there are you have a lot of mutated. Because of what happened in Wrath of Magnus, you have a lot of mutated wildlife on Fenris, meaning a lot of tribes are not capable of defending themselves against these mutated creatures. But basically, the human population has been decreased incredibly. You've had hundreds of tribes wiped out during the Wrath of Magnus, and after Magnus was banished back to the warp. The Inquisition basically scooped up thousands upon thousands of Fenrisians and had them executed because they witnessed a demon Primarch and also demons. So basically the Space Wolves do not want to, and of course Logan doesn't want to lower the standards of recruitment for the chapter. What happens is that because he doesn't want to sacrifice quality for quantity. So Stormcaller is trying. So he asked Njaal's Stormcaller to try and see if he could find Russ through divination. But he was able to find out. But instead, he was able to find out something else. He said that he was able to see a slumberer in the rocks, a sleeper within a rock, and a storm in a great storm riding on a chariot of white lightning. Basically, the other Primarchs are on the move. And there's actually this one little interesting bit in here that I read that says how, because it's like Arak went out to a village in Asaheim to fight off what he thought was a demon, but it turned out to be a mutated creature of Fenris. And one of the warriors that helped him fight off this creature was a woman, and it's like Arak was saying, okay, as long as you keep bringing up smart, strong lads, then Fenris's sons will keep fighting. But then the one warrior said, "Oh, just sons," and so now basically there's kind of. Gathorp's kind of like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna kind of like give a little hint at, all right. Basically, all the warriors, men and women of Fenris, they all fight so that they can fight among the Sky Warriors, but yet only the sons are chosen. So, kind of have the daughters as well. Like, so basically, I'm thinking that there are ways that it can be possible. It could be possible. You just have to create a good circumstance or a good situation where it can be introduced into the storyline. But so far, Njaal had kind of he looked toward Prospero in one of his divinations, and what happened? Well, when he came back, he basically picked up a hitchhiker. Or an unintentional hitchhiker. He happened to. This is now. I recommend that if you haven't read that when you read the book, you listen to the audio drama by Gav Thorpe called The 13th Wolf. It's basically it's a Horus Heresy story, and this is a continuation of that story in a way. So what happens is that Njaal goes. Now, basically, this is Issachar Orr. He was a librarian to the Thousand Sons. Now, what happened was Orr was killed. His spirit never dissolved into the warp. He was trapped inside the portal maze in Prospero, and so. He's telling, and it's like he has no idea what has happened to the Imperium because he believes his spirit was dormant until Njaal kind of traveled to Prospero and brought him back. It's actually amazing the banter between Njaal and Issachar is actually pretty good because it's like, okay, the past and the present basically Njaal is trying to tell Issachar that this is what has happened to your this is what has happened to your legion. You were traitors. You guys did this. You did that. We were sent to destroy you. And and what happened is that the entire chapter has and so Grimnar has asked Njaal to assemble a company called the Storm Riders to travel to Prospero and to recover the 13th Company, because Issachar has told him that a force of the 13th Company still fights is still within the portal. It's still within the portal maze. They travel there, and they had an unfortunate addition to their company, which is Lucas the Trickster, and by far, this is one of the most amazing things. I'll tell you later. So they travel to Prospero. The entire and the company, and they're accompanied by a special type of navigator who travels with them onto the surface. And what happens is that they're being ambushed by the cult of Magnus, these mortal cultists, and they go into and so basically the Space Wolves go into the portal maze, and what happens is that they find portions of the Thousand Suns Legion that were trapped inside of the maze during the siege of Prospero. When they came out of the portal, they all of a sudden turned to dust because of because of the rubric of Ahriman. And so basically any space marine of the Thousand Suns that tries to leave the portal maze all of a sudden turns into dust. And it kind of is like, oh, and over time you're noticing that Issachar is becoming a lot more friendly to Njal while being trapped inside his mind, and it turns into like, you know what, we were wrong. The Space Wolves destroyed the Thousand Suns on the orders of Horus. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. After traveling through the portal maze and losing a few brothers along the way, Njal and his company and the portion of his company that went into the maze, they finally came across a force of the 13th Company. These was an interesting encounter. Basically, these warriors are unmutated. They're not Wolfen. They basically to the 13th Company, to that force of the 13th Company, they felt they've been there for a few days to a couple of weeks instead of 10,000 years. So basically, here's what's happened. Lee Leitner's honor of the Lee Leitner's Wolf's honor has been kind of cast out. Gone. They retconned most of it. So basically, I think to a degree they kind of gave us some good stuff right there, because the 13th Company, because Bolvi was with them, because Bolvi is with that force. He's basically the heart of the portal maze is basically the core of Prospero itself, and Magnus is trying to use the portal system to create a stable warp rift where demons will no longer have to replenish themselves in the warp. They can just constantly feed off the warp energy. And so Magnus is trying, and actually this is where Lucas comes in. Magnus is trying to get his forces to needs a parchment called a spell of unlocking. And what has happened, and he thought that Lucas had the spell in his hands, and he said, okay, you know what, if you kill me, then my stasis heart activates and you won't be able to get your hands on this spell for 1,000 years. And you know that you can't wait 1,000 years because your brothers are already trying to carve out portions of the Imperium for their empires. So it's kind of like Lucas had Njal on the rope. Lucas had Magnus on the ropes in a way. So it's like, okay, you know what? I'll give you whatever. All right, for in exchange for this spell, I will give you whatever you desire. And it's like, okay, it's like, hmm. Yeah. And he basically Lucas tricked Magnus. I'll just tell you that he tricked Magnus into letting him go. He thought he got the spell, but it was nothing. It was just absolutely nothing. I had a laugh for that one. so so anyway, the Space Wolves have a particularly so basically now the 13th Company is alive. They have 200 warriors with them, along with warriors, along with support staff. They have wolf priests. They have iron priests. They even have battle tanks and dreadnoughts from the Great Crusade. And this is just an amazing amount of story that kind of like I hope transitions into the Codex, because basically the 13th Company has returned. Bolvi now is the Lord of the 13th, and so the battles continue. They have the company. The entire force is reassembled. So, and also not just the 13th Company, you also have warriors from other companies that got trapped in the portal maze as well. Bolvi kind of kept pulling them out. Bolvi kept pulling them out into the portal heart to survive, so that they could assemble and fight. And for this entire time, they've been fighting each other. They've been fighting the Thousand Suns wherever they go in the portal maze. So a lot has changed. So basically, if you have any, guys, if you have any 13th Company forces, or basically Space Wolf 30K units, I would say they are kind of viable now, since basically the 13th Company has returned into the 42nd millennium, if you think about it. So everything has really taken a big change. Now I have to say, when this comes out in March, I recommend that you all buy it. I recommend that you guys can buy it, so you can read up on it yourself, because it's like, okay, I can tell a story like I can tell a story, but this is just fun. This is a very good book, and I hope you all have enjoyed this little book review. Like I said, this was full of spoilers, even though it's a little late to say that now. I hope you all enjoy have your happy holidays, and I hope you all keep growing and building your armies. I'll see you all next year. Farewell.